For most of her life, Rachel Evans had believed that peace was something you could build if you worked hard enough at it, like tending a garden. She lived in a quiet neighborhood in Boulder, Colorado, where the air smelled of pine and her home sat on a gentle slope with mountain views that glowed gold every evening. Her husband, Mark, worked as an architect downtown, and their 12-year-old daughter, Sophie, was the kind of child who hummed while she drew pictures of trees and horses. It wasn't a perfect life, but it was good, steady, predictable, filled with routines Rachel found comforting. Every morning, she made coffee while the dog, Charlie, waited for his walk. Every Sunday, she baked muffins for Sophie's school lunches. And every night, she and Mark sat by the fireplace, exchanging small stories about their day. But one spring afternoon, Rachel's quiet life shifted, almost imperceptibly at first, like the ground beneath her had moved just enough to make her lose her balance. Chapter 1. The letter. It arrived on a Wednesday. Rachel found it in the mailbox between a grocery store coupon flyer and a water bill, an unassuming white envelope with no return address. Her name was written in careful, unfamiliar handwriting. Inside was a single page. Greater than, you don't know me, but I think you deserve to know the truth. Ask Mark about 2011. Rachel froze. Her first thought was that it was a prank, someone's idea of a cruel joke. But the neat handwriting, the simplicity of the message, it didn't feel like one. That evening, she placed the letter on the kitchen counter and stared at it while stirring spaghetti sauce. When Mark came home, tired and smiling, she couldn't bring herself to mention it. Not yet. Chapter 2. The weight of silence. Days passed, and the letter sat hidden inside the drawer where she kept grocery receipts. Rachel tried to ignore it, but her mind wouldn't stop circling back. What could 2011 possibly mean? That was the year Sophie was born. She noticed small changes in herself, how she would pause before answering Mark, or how her eyes darted toward him when he spoke on the phone in another room. The foundation of trust she had always felt began to tremble. One afternoon, Rachel confided in her sister, Emily, over coffee. I got this strange letter, she said, sliding it across the table. Emily read it, frowning. You think someone's trying to mess with you? I don't know, Rachel whispered. But I can't stop thinking about it. Emily reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Then ask him, Rach. Whatever it is, it's better than not knowing. Chapter 3. The confession. That evening, after Sophie had gone to bed, Rachel found Mark sitting in the den, sketching on his tablet. Her hands trembled slightly as she handed him the letter. He read it once, then again, his expression tightening. Where did you get this? He asked quietly. The mail, Rachel said. Who would send it, Mark? What happened in 2011? Mark sighed heavily, leaning back in his chair. The silence stretched between them like a wall. Finally, he said, before Sophie was born, I made a mistake. I invested in a construction deal with a man I thought I could trust. It went bad, really bad. I didn't tell you because I thought I could fix it on my own. Rachel stared at him. A business mistake. That's it, he nodded. I lost money, our savings back then. I spent years paying it off quietly so you wouldn't worry. Rachel's chest loosened, relief flooding her body. It wasn't betrayal, it was pride. Foolish, maybe, but not cruel. Chapter 4. The storm after calm. But just as the air began to clear, the phone rang. Mark answered, his face draining of color. Yes, this is Mark Evans. Rachel couldn't hear the other side, but when he hung up, his hands were shaking. It was the police, he said. They're reopening that case from 2011. The partner I mentioned, apparently, he's been charged with fraud again. They want my statement. Rachel's relief vanished. The past Mark had tried to bury was resurfacing. Over the following weeks, their peaceful home filled with tension. Detectives called, lawyers visited, and news reporters even showed up once, asking questions. Rachel did her best to shield Sophie from it, turning off the TV whenever a story about financial crime appeared. Chapter 5. Strength in shadows. Rachel felt anger at times, anger that Mark had kept things from her, but more than that, she felt fear. What if this became public? What if Sophie heard rumors at school? One night, Rachel sat at the kitchen table long after everyone had gone to bed. Her hands rested on an old photo album from 2011, pictures of Mark holding baby Sophie, both smiling at the camera. She remembered the exhaustion, the joy, the hope. She whispered to herself, we made it through that. We'll make it through this. The next morning, she called Mark's lawyer and offered to help organize the paperwork. If they were going to face this, they would face it together. Chapter 6 Community and Courage. When neighbors began asking questions, Rachel was honest, but careful. Mark was caught up in a bad business deal years ago, she said calmly. It's being sorted out. Surprisingly, many people were kind. One of Mark's old clients even called, offering support. We've all made mistakes, he said. You two are good people. Sophie, sensing the tension but not understanding the details, asked one night, Mom, is Dad in trouble? Rachel smiled softly. He's helping to fix something from a long time ago, sweetie. But we're okay. And for the first time in weeks, she meant it. Chapter 7 The Trial and the Truth. Months later, Mark was called to testify. Rachel sat in the courtroom, her heart pounding as he spoke truthfully about everything that had happened, his own negligence, his attempts to make it right, his regret. When the verdict came, Mark was cleared of wrongdoing. The court ruled that he had been deceived, not complicit. The relief that swept over Rachel felt like sunlight breaking through after a storm. Chapter 8 Healing. Afterward, Rachel and Mark took Sophie on a small trip to the mountains. They hiked, laughed, and built a fire by a lake. One evening, as they watched the sunset, Mark turned to Rachel. I should have told you everything from the start, he said. Rachel smiled faintly. We all hide things sometimes, not because we want to lie, but because we're afraid of losing what we love. Mark took her hand. Never again. And she believed him. Chapter 9 Moving forward. Life slowly returned to normal. The phone stopped ringing with reporters. The neighbors stopped whispering. Rachel returned to her garden, tending her flowers with the patience she'd nearly lost. But she wasn't the same woman she had been before that letter. She was stronger now, less afraid of the truth, more trusting of her own resilience. Sometimes she still wondered who had sent the letter. Maybe someone trying to stir trouble. Maybe someone trying to help. But in the end, it didn't matter. It had forced them to confront the truth, and the truth had set them free. As autumn came to Boulder, Rachel stood on the porch watching Sophie chase Charlie across the yard. She breathed in the crisp air and whispered a quiet thank you, to the unknown sender, to fate, to whatever force had shaken her life just enough to remind her what truly mattered. Peace, she realized, wasn't the absence of chaos. It was the strength to stand firm in the middle of it.